From the center of Yerevan to all corners of the world, this is CivilNet's daily news digest for Monday, November 11th. Lunatic or savior? Pundits are talking about the character at the center of last week's riot. Plus, where does Armenia rank on the Global Militarization Index? You may be surprised to find out. And what should Armenia be expecting at the Eastern Partnership Summit at the end of the month? We'll hear what the host nation's ambassador is saying. Later, we'll take you inside an Armenian day school in Istanbul. We began this morning with Sunday's elections in the town of Ararat, southeast of Yerevan. The people of the town, known for its cement factory, went to the polls in an atmosphere described by many as tense. On the ballot were candidates for mayor Haik Haikyan, who was nominated by the ruling Republican Party, and cement factory director of production Samuel Barselyan from the prosperous Armenian Party, whose president also owns the cement factory. Voter turnout was reportedly high, but many said there was an unusual number of police present. Some interpret this as a bullying technique by the ruling party. It's also not known why there were so many unexpected people both inside and outside the polling stations. Preliminary numbers show that Haikyan has won the election with at least a few hundred more votes than his challenger. We'll have more on this on Tuesday's Digest. A wake-up call. That's how one political analyst in the United States is assessing last Tuesday's riot in Yerevan. Police arrested 37 people after some 200 protesters clashed with police near the opera. Some in the crowd used homemade explosives and carried wooden sticks. The man at the center of the riot was Shant Harutyunyan, who said he was leading a revolution. We asked civic activist and Voice of America correspondent Arsen Kharatyan to comment on how he perceives Harutyunyan. Kharatyan talked to us from Washington, D.C., where he lives and works.
I mean, Shant is not a new character in the Armenian realities. I mean, come on, he was arrested after 2008 March 1st events. He was out there, very outspoken. He was outspoken in the Soviet days. His father was a famous dissident who currently lives in California. I mean, he just gave an interview talking about his whole family story, etc. I refrain myself from talking about his personal character. Yeah, he does have. He never hid his radical thoughts. He believed in making changes, but he was the most outspoken anti-Russian politician, if you wish. I mean, he was a classical dissident in today's reality, and I believe that. He's honest. That's what strikes me as the most important thing. He believes in what he's doing. Now, is he manipulated? Is he being used? Those are questions that needs to be probably addressed. But the very fact that there is a character like that who speaks his mind and who has no censorship, no self-censorship, let's put it this way, is a fact.
Kharatyan repeats that what Harutyunyan did should be taken as a wake-up call. He says the message the protesters were delivering is that Armenia is reaching a boiling point and something must change. 8 people involved in the riots have been charged for attacking police officers. They remain behind bars. And over the weekend, around 100 gathered at a rally to urge the government to release Shant Harutyunyan and his supporters who are still behind bars. The protesters began with a march from Freedom Square near the opera towards the Ministry of Justice. Joining the group was Shant Harutyunyan's 14-year-old son Shahin and outspoken critic of the president, parliament member Zaruhi Postanjian from the Heritage Party. The march was organized by human rights advocate Artur Sakuns and former political prisoner Dikran Arakelian, who had been jailed for 2 years for a scuffle with police. A new report says Armenia ranked as the 4th most militarized nation in the world. The Global Militarization Index assesses military expenditures with the nation's gross domestic product and its health expenditures. It looks at the contrast between the total number of military forces and the number of physicians and the overall population. It also compares the ratio of heavy weapons available and the number of the overall population. At the top of the Global Military Index was Israel, and then Singapore and Russia, followed by Armenia in the 4th place. Azerbaijan ranked 8th. The Middle East ranks as the highest militarized region in the world. Azerbaijan reportedly allocated $3.7 billion for its 2013 military budget. In contrast, Armenia's 2013 defense budget was around $451 million. Lithuania's ambassador to Yerevan says the European Union is still negotiating with Armenia on a joint document that could be signed at the upcoming summit in Vilnius at the end of November. That's when Armenia was expected to sign the association agreement that Armenian diplomats had been negotiating with the European Union for more than 4 years. But when Armenian President Serge Sarkisyan announced that Armenia was going to enter a customs union led by Russia, the EU association agreement was off the table for Armenia. However, some EU officials believe something could still be signed by EU and Armenia. Armenia's decision to enter the customs union was one of the topics on the table when Civilitas founder and prosperous Armenia faction parliament member Vartan Oskanyan met with envoys of European Union member states. The European diplomats were interested in the regional developments and issues related to the Syrian crisis. Other issues addressed were the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict settlement and Armenia's political issues. The World Bank has just approved a $72 million loan for Armenia. The loan is to be used to promote economic stability and to improve the business environment. This is the first in a series of programs that is set to help Armenia fuel stronger job creation, reduce poverty, and promote reforms. The exchange rate is up on your screen as we take a look at the forecast for Monday. The high today in Yerevan will be 17 degrees. It'll be 8 degrees in Gyumri, where it'll be freezing overnight. In Stepanakert, it'll be 12 degrees, and today's travel forecast takes us to Istanbul, where it'll be 19 degrees. The music you've been listening to is a song called Namag from Sibyl, a Turkey native who started singing in an Armenian church choir early in life. She recently became the first singer whose Armenian language music video played on Turkish television. You can watch CivilNet's entire interview with Sibyl Pektorosoglu by following the link on your screen. CivilNet's Armenak Shatinyan just returned from Istanbul, where he visited an Armenian day school for children of immigrants from Armenia. The school has been operating in the basement of Istanbul's Armenian Evangelical Church for the past 10 years. Enrollment is set to be increasing year after year. The school's director, Donara Beburian, says there are 130 students now, and 30 of them are in preschool. Donara says the students often stay at school until late in the evening when their parents come to pick them up. Last time CivilNet visited the school in Istanbul, there were only 108 students enrolled. The school was founded in 2003 by Heriknaz Avagyan, who had taught Armenian language and literature in the 180th school of Yerevan's Avan Arinj district. There were only 7 students when the school opened. Now, however, because of the increasing number of students, the church's basement is no longer enough to hold classes, so the sanctuary of the church is often used as a classroom. And that is our digest for this Monday. Maria and I will be back tomorrow. Manakparov.